Well, hello there. You might be here because you saw the title or thumbnail of the video, or because you're already a subscriber to Gundam Explained, but this is a little different. This isn't going to be about Gundam, actually it is, but it's more about how if you like Star Wars, you will definitely like Gundam. So Andor just finished. It was awesome, craving more Star Wars, but there were some aspects of Star Wars that have been missing from the Disney era, and I don't want to get all into that, but for fans of OG Star Wars, for fans of the verisimilitude found in Star Wars, there exists a property that takes that initial setup and just goes far beyond it. Now, this is specifically Universal Century Gundam. You've probably heard of Wing, G Gundam. There's all these other types of Gundams, but really what we're focusing on here is Universal Century. It is the Star Wars of Japan. And remember, George Lucas used Japanese movies, things he was influenced by Japanese cinema, the world building in older Japanese movies. He wanted to kind of embrace that sort of like diving into a culture that's unknown to you, so everything seems realistic. Gundam does that, and it is crazy. Again, Universal Century. Now, as a Star Wars fan, I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time, and I like the prequels, and I don't want to always hate on the Disney stuff, but I'll totally watch it, and I've been watching it, and there's some of it I enjoy and I really like. I collect the Vintage Collection action figures. I have a ton of them. My favorites probably being Plagueis or the Last Jedi Luke. That's really hard to get. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I like to get the hard-to-find Vintage Collection figures. But let's start off with the premise of Gundam. In Gundam Universal Century, this is where it starts, 0079. It came out in 1979, just a couple years after Star Wars, and wait, one thing I want to bring up is it's an anime. It's animation, and I know, and it's like with me, I didn't grow up watching anime. I am not an anime guy. It's only been getting into Gundam that I then got into anime because I saw how the storytelling is so well done. Watching Andor reminded me, wait a minute, this is complex character storytelling that I see in anime a lot. Very different than typical Western cinema that I typically see. But I got over it. I made sure to get over it. The animation from 79, it's not bad, it's not good, but it is of the time, and you need to not let that bother you. And I was able to quickly let it go once I saw how real the show goes. The start of, when you get into Mobile Suit Gundam, the original 0079, it starts with the future of Earth, where man had gone into space, but really just space colonies, asteroid bases, a moon base. But that's kind of it. And an interesting thing here is where there's kind of that segregation between people on Earth and people in the colonies. And that's kind of the big empire versus rebel thing that's going on here. But it gets even crazier. One of the colonies wanting independence, they call themselves the Republic, or Principality of Zeon. They get the name Republic later. They take one of the colonies and send it to Earth as like a super weapon. And it lands on Australia, causes devastation, and they say this immediately, like in the first minute or two of 0079, they really set up the world, just like the crawl in Star Wars. That's kind of the basis of it. We have kind of the Earth versus space people going on. There's an Earth Federation, and they have the Earth Federation forces. They even have the Earth Federation space forces, again, against the Republic, or the Principality of Zeon. Now, there's Future Gundam that actually goes more into different sides, different things. It kind of starts getting hairy, but I just want to kind of break it down for people that want to get into this. The other part of this that I really compared this to Star Wars too is when I got into Star Wars when I was very, very young, it was all about the ships. Having the ships in space doing space battles. I love that stuff. Gundam has that. Even though it's based around mobile suits, which are mechs, it's still kind of... It starts where the mobile suit is a newer thing that the Principality of Zeon is invading Earth with, or taking over colonies, etc. And then the Earth Federation forces had to quickly adapt and come up with a mobile suit of their own. They call that the Gundam. And that's kind of what starts off the original animation. And there are prequels, modern-day prequels that were made to the original 1979 show. So that's another aspect that's similar to Star Wars. So not only do we have capital ships, different classes of ships with fighters and all that stuff, the mobile suit's the fun part. So you got the Gundam. That's what the one Gundam that the Earth Federation has that's like the savior, because the Principality of Zeon, they were really making headway with their Zaku 2. MSO6, Zaku 2, again, just like Star Wars, they have specifications, technical names that you can look up, manufacturers for the different types of mobile suits and weapons you can look up. All of that lore is there, and it's awesome. But also, as This war that takes place from the first Gundam started going. After the Gundam, their Federation started rolling out their GM. It's called a GM. It's their like main weapon mobile suit. I would say the GM is an X-wing. The Zaku 2 is a TIE fighter. And that's what we get a lot of. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's kind of the basis of wanting to see that kind of battle. Now, what's really cool, though, about Gundam is they take space and ground combat into consideration. So we see the gravity, the physics of a mobile suit on land that would be fighting. We also see what it's like in space, zipping around, especially later iterations of Universal Century, where the manufacturers, the companies are pumping a bunch of money into building these weapons because war makes money. And so you get these crazier suits that are like insane in space. And the other aspect is the Force. So the Force is an interesting story, character-driven byproduct that came with me wanting to see spaceship battles. The reason the Force worked for me, and I didn't mind it back when I got into Star Wars originally, was the fantastical nature of it wasn't too extreme. It still was grounded a bit. And as I've gotten older, I've appreciated it even more, where it incorporates a lot of Eastern philosophies. And someone that has started, a while back, meditating. I understand meditation, and so a lot of things that you hear like Qui-Gon say or some Jedi, it gels with me. I think it's really cool George Lucas incorporates this stuff. But Gundam Universal Century has the same thing. It's not the Force, but it's actually just a byproduct of some humans evolved brainwaves. Now, there's actual science behind this. Stay tuned for a video where I am going to discuss the science behind the new type brainwaves. They call them psycho waves. The idea is the brain can generate these waves, and so there's mobile suits that they started building that would be able to kind of harness those waves and use it so the pilot can have more movability in their mobile suit. I guess it's what allows them to be kind of like the superheroes or the Jedi in battle. And in coming with this, they called a new type. Again, I forgot if I said that. It's called a new type. There's the Force, and then someone could be a Jedi or a Sith or just a Force user. But a new type is someone that displays those abilities. There's also cyber new types. They're people that are engineered cybernetically, somehow engineered, enhanced to have new type abilities. And there's some pretty tragic stories that come out of that. So what this is all coming to is the reason I am really getting into Gundam over Star Wars is because it takes everything we know from Star Wars but grounds it even more than you could possibly imagine. Remember when Luke blew up the Death Star and he's celebrating with his friends? Well, after Amuro Ray got into his battle in the Gundam and killed someone, he was depressed. He was going through some mental breakdowns that the characters had to deal with because they were all relying on him to go out there and fight, and he couldn't. It was just getting to him too much. Very well done. And I'm not saying that it's completely depressing. I just think it has a better grounded basis for some of the horrors of war that occur, what humans are capable of doing when they're on different sides of something, of a conflict. So when I see something like Andor, that reminds me of Universal Century Gundam. But when I watch something like Book of Boba Fett, or maybe like the latest Star Wars movies in the theaters, the sequels, they are, there's nothing in Universal Century that I think directly compares to that. That would be more of like an offshoot of Gundam, like the build fighters, which lower risks in general. Yeah, people die in Star Wars, but they come back as ghosts. And in Gundam, you have main characters that die and then they're just gone. So I don't know if this convinced you. I don't know. I would like to talk more on it if someone wants to throw down in the comment, hey, well, can you discuss this aspect of Star Wars and Gundam? I'll be glad to do that. I would just say for now, if you've never seen Gundam, you need to start with Universal Century 0079. You can watch it on Netflix. It's a trilogy that came out in like 80 or 70, 80, 81, 82, something like that. They came out with a trilogy after the show because the show was so popular in Japan. They just took the show, cut it down, added new scenes. I think like Crunchyroll, all those places, you can stream the actual show. I recommend that. They have a dub, so you can hear the English voices for the original show. There was some, the thing is about the show is it's, 48 to 50 episodes or something like that. You get the movie. It's just 3 movies, so it's shorter, but you don't get to see everything. Maybe check out the movies. There's not a dub, but maybe check it out to see if that's something you like. The thing is, what I love is Zeta Gundam. It's the second series after the original 0079, and it's so good, but it's so good based on what you know from 0079. So it's always hard for me to recommend people to watch some other Gundam when you really need to start and see if you like it. Or even if you watch the original 0079 and you don't like the animation, just think there's future shows that are just as good. So to go in order of release to get an understanding of how serious they take Gundam, like Star Wars, the first series came out in 1979. Then we had the Zeta series in 85, Double Zeta, which is the third series in 86, the movie Char's Counterattack, Char being kind of like the Anakin or Darth Vader of Gundam. That was 1988. In 1989 was the first Gundam that was made by a different team called War in the Pocket, but same themes, and it's incredible. In 91, Gundam F91, and then from 91 to 92, around that period is the Stardust Memory, so it takes place like after the original Mobile Suit Gundam, but before the Zeta Gundam. There's another TV series called Victory Gundam. Then there was the 1996 08 MS Team. Now that is a favorite too, so I would say if you really can't get into 0079, check out 08 MS Team. That will probably be the only one that I would say you can skip around. It actually takes place during the same time period. There was a live-action movie in 2000 called G-Savior. Now, people usually don't talk about it anymore because it seems like it was so bad. I have never seen it until now, until I got into Gundam, and it's actually not bad. To me, it's like watching Star Trek Next Generation, those late 90s, the 90s, late 90s sci-fi TV movies. That's kind of what it is, and it's pretty cool. So then we get 2004 MS Igloo. So this takes place during the original. It's all CGI. It's not the greatest, but it still has some cool stuff. And that one takes place during the One-Year War, but from different sides of different places, with it, like up in space, on Earth. It's very, very cool. Zeta Gundam got a movie in the mid-2000s, a 3-part, where they took the original show, added a bunch of new animation. And then in 2010 is Gundam Unicorn, which is fantastic once you've seen everything else. Gundam Unicorn is just incredible. I don't know how to explain it. Then there's Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. That came out in 2015. It takes place before the original 0079. It gives you the background character of Anakin. Char Aznavour. It's pretty good and it's worth it. Then in 2015, Gundam Thunderbolt. Again, takes place during the original series, but it has a lot of cool, unique, interesting things going on. It's based off a manga. Now, there are a few other things that have come out since then, but for some notable stuff in 2018, a movie called Gundam Narrative. Now, that's really good if you're someone that was into the new type stuff. They really drill into that. Then there's Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway. This just came out at 2021, and it is amazing. It is like modern animation. It's like a James Bond movie. It's on Netflix. Netflix actually was the one to distribute it, so it has a dub. It's excellent. Then there's Kukuru's Doan's Island. It's kind of a crazy name. So what happened was, just this past year in 2022, Sunrise came out with a Mobile Suit Gundam Kukuru's Doan's Island that takes place during the original 0079 Mobile Suit Gundam. There was an episode that they decided not to air because they just didn't think it was that good. And I guess, 40 years later, they made a whole movie based on that episode, but it is worth it. You're seeing all the classic characters that are back. The animation is superb. This is, when I'm mentioning these newer releases of Gundam that are coming out, this is what is missing, was missing from Star Wars with the Disney output. We got Andor, which I think sort of changed things. I would even say the addition of Luke in Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett is awesome, but it wasn't done in the way that I think it should have been, like how it was within those other shows. But Sunrise with Gundam Universal Century has been consistent. I like all the shows. I like all the movies, all the OVAs. They have all these different ways of watching all this different Gundam, and then the model kits, and then the action figures. I possibly missed something here. And if I have, anyone that's a big Star Wars fan and Gundam fan, throw in the comments things I should be talking about, discussing, or the things to get people into Gundam. I just really think after watching Andor, it's like I so appreciate Gundam, and the reason I have this YouTube channel is because there's not a lot of Western YouTubers talking about Gundam to the degree I do. I'm called Gundam Explained because I really originally wanted to make a Star Wars channel called Star Wars Explained a long time ago. And then I saw that someone had one, and it was great. And then it was just after time, I just got so into Gundam, I was like, hey, let's do Gundam Explained. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. If you've got any other suggestions for those that are watching, totally get into Gundam if you haven't gotten to it. Let me know what you think. We'll talk later.